you still there?
Yes, ma'am.
So let us now go to the review of the human reproductive system. But let's not tackle this one by one. No? Okay, must have na mo yung reproductive organs of the reproductive.
Recording in progress.
Okay, so for the female reproductive organs, we have the mammary glands, which are the accessory organs of the female reproductive system. And it is developed during puberty under the influence of the hormones estrogen and progesterone. And this is responsible for the secretion of milk. Then we have the mons pubis or the mons veneris, which is a subcutaneous pad of adipose tissue located over the symphysis pubis and served to protect the pubic bone. After puberty, it is covered with coarse pubic hair. And then we have the labia majora, which is a two folds of adipose tissue covered by loose connective tissue and epithelium, and it serves as protection for the external genitalia and urethra in the distal vagina. And then you have the labia minora, which is a too thin longitudinal connective tissue bordering the vestibule of the vagina. It protects the vagina, the urethra, and the clitoris. And then we have the clitoris, where the labia minora meet. This is a small circular organ of erectile tissue covered by a prepuce or folded skin. This is the most important part in sexual arousal and orgasm. And then we have the vestibule, which is bordered by the clitoris anteriorly, the fourchette posteriorly, and medially by the hymenal remnants, and laterally by the labia minora. The structures found in the vestibule include the major vestibular gland, or the Bartholin's gland, the minor vestibular gland, or the periurethral gland, or the Skene's gland, and the urethra. So we have the urethral meatus, which is located between the labia minora and below and posterior to the clitoris. This is the external opening of the urethra where the urine exits. And then we have the hymen, which is a fold of mucous membrane which surrounds or partially covers the external vaginal opening, and it forms part of the vulva or external genitalia. It tends to bleed during the first sexual encounter, but may be torn also by other factors like sports activities, tampon insertion, or pelvic examinations. And then we have the Bartholin's gland, which is a 2 pea-sized gland. Not a 2 pea-sized glands located slightly posteriorly and to the left and right of the opening of the vagina. They secrete mucus to lubricate the vagina. It is homologous to the bulbourethral glands in males. And then we have the Skene's gland, also known as the lesser vestibular glands, or the periurethral glands, or paraurethral glands, or the female prostate. These are glands located on the anterior wall of the vagina around the lower end of the urethra. In acute gonorrhea, these glands are almost always infected. The function of the Skene's gland is not clear, but some believe that the Skene's gland are the source of the female ejaculation. And, excuse me. Okay. Then we have the fourchette. This is a fork-shaped fold of skin, or a small band that joins the fold of skin at the back of the opening to the vagina, which is sometimes torn in childbirth. And then you have the perineum, the area in front of the anus, extending to the fourchette of the vulva in the female. This diamond-shaped area corresponds to the outlet of the pelvis containing the anus and the vulva. So for the female internal reproductive organs, you have the vagina, the uterus, the cervix, the fallopian tube, the ovaries. Okay, so the vagina is an elastic muscular canal that extends from the cervix to the vulva. The average vagina is around 6 to 7 inches in length. Its elasticity allows it to stretch during sexual intercourse and during birth to offsprings. The vagina connects the superficial vulva to the cervix of the deep uterus. So next you have the uterus, which is a hollow pear-shaped organ that is the home of the developing fetus. It's about 3 inches long, 2 inches wide, and 1 inch thick. It is pear-shaped now, but during pregnancy, it is now ovoid in shape. For the weight of the uterus in non-pregnant women, it is around 50 to 60 grams. In pregnancy, it would reach around 1,000 grams. During the 4th stage of labor, 1,000 grams. 2nd week after delivery, 500 grams. 3rd week after delivery, 300 grams. And 5 to 6 weeks after delivery, back to 50 to 60 grams. Anyway, the uterus is composed of 3 layers. The outer perimetrium, which is composed of connective tissue. The thick, smooth muscle and elastic tissue of the myometrium is in the center. And the mucosal epithelial lining in the inside is called as the endometrium. Under normal circumstances, the uterus is both antiflexed and antiverted. Okay, so when you say antiverted, it is tipped forward. When you say antiflexed, the fundus is pointing forward relative to the cervix. Okay? Less common position of the uterus includes the retroverted and the retroflexed uterus. So when you say retroverted, the uterus is tipped backwards. If it is retroflexed, the fundus is pointing backwards. So the bulk of the uterus is what we call as the corpus of the body, while the short segment between the body and the cervix is the isthmus, and the uppermost part of the uterus is the fundus. The functions of the uterus includes menstruation, pregnancy, labor, and expulsion of the fetus. And then we have the cervix, okay, which is located at the lowest portion of the uterus and is about 2 to 5 centimeters long. During ovulation, the cervix becomes thin, thus permitting the penetration of the man's sperm at the time of the intercourse. Okay, I'm fast because I know you all know this already from your anatomy and physiology, so review na lang ni siya. No? And then we have the fallopian tubes, which is a smooth hollow tunnel that is lined with mucus-secreting and ciliated cells with a layer of connective tissue and muscle beneath. There are 4 divisions of the fallopian tube. We have the interstitial, which lies within the uterine wall and is 1 centimeter long. We have the isthmus, which is extremely narrow and is 2 centimeters long, and is a part that is cut and sealed during bilateral tubal ligation. So if you could observe no, sa OR na ay nagpaligate, ang isthmus na nga part ang gi-cut sa fallopian tube. And then we have the ampulla, which is the largest portion and is about 5 centimeters long. And it is where fertilization occurs. And then we have the infundibulum, which is covered with fimbriated or hair-like cells and is 2 centimeters long and guides the ova to the fallopian tube. Okay? So, ang fertilization dito mo occurs sa ampulla nga part sa fallopian tube. And then you have the ovaries. These are 2 almond-shaped glands, normally measuring about 1.5 by 0.75 inches. They produce and release the mature egg, and they also produce estrogen and progesterone. Right, let us go to the male external reproductive organs. You have the penis. The penis contains 3 columns of erectile tissue and the urethra, which terminates at the glans. Sexual excitement leads to the venous congestion, which causes distension and erection. It is the organ of copulation and serves as a passageway for urine and semen. So the glans penis is found in the distal end of the penis, and it is covered by prepuce or foreskin that may or may not be removed. So the removal of the foreskin is what we call a circumcision. And then you have the scrotum. The scrotum is a pouch of thin skin and muscle that is behind the penis. It is divided by a septum, and each scrotal sac contains a testis, epididymis, and vas deferens. The scrotum protects and supports the testis and the sperm. The testis, kung isa testis, duha man yung testes, no? So testes. Testes are two ovoid glands measuring about 2 inches by 1 inch each. It contains the seminiferous tubules in which spermatogenesis occurs and the interstitial cells which produce the testosterone. So sa testes na area ang seminiferous tubules, no? Ang seminiferous tubules, that is the site of spermatogenesis. And then you have the Leydig cells or the interstitial cells which secretes the testosterone. And then we have the Sertoli cells which provide nourishment to the sperm. Let us now go to the internal reproductive organs of the male. We have the epididymis. This is a tightly coiled tube which extends from the seminiferous tubule of each testis and is approximately 20 inches long. Pero coiled siya, so di mo makita ang 20 inches kay coiled man siya, no? This stores the sperm as it develops the power of motility and the capability to fertilize the female ovum. And then we have the vas deferens. It extends from the epididymis and enters the ejaculatory duct in the prostate gland. This is an uncoiled fibromuscular tube surrounded by arteries, veins, and a thick fibrous coating. This stores most of the sperm. And then we have the spermatocord, which extends from the testis through the inguinal canal to the abdominal cavity. It is a bundle of blood vessels, nerves, muscle fibers, and the vas deferens. And then we have the seminal vesicles. These are two convoluted pouches positioned behind the bladder and empty into the ejaculatory ducts. These are about 5 centimeters long and are lined with secretory epithelium. They produce a yellowish alkaline fluid rich in basic sugar and protein. This fluid enhances sperm motility by nourishing the sperm and improving the pH. And then we have the ejaculatory ducts. These are two tubes about 2 centimeters long, which join the seminal vesicles and the urethra. It passes through the prostate gland and terminate in the prostatic urethra. It is a passage through which the semen enters the urethra. And then we have the prostate gland, which is located below the bladder and surrounding the urethra. It is a walnut-sized gland, approximately 4 to 6 centimeters long, and divided into 5 lobules by the urethra and the ejaculatory ducts. It secretes fluid during sexual activity to add volume to the semen, enhance sperm motility, and neutralize the male urethral and vaginal environment. And then we have the urethra. This is a hollow tube measuring about 20 centimeters long. It leads from the base of the bladder through the prostate gland to the shaft and the glands of the penis. And it serves as a passageway for both semen during ejaculation and as a canal also for urine during voiding. And then we have the bulbourethral glands or the Cooper's glands. These are 2 pea-sized glands located beside the prostate and drain into the urethra. This is similar to the Bartholin's glands in females, no? It contributes about 0.1 to 0.2 ml or 5% of the ejaculate of the semen volume. The secretion is a clear fluid that is rich in mucoproteins, no? Which helps lubricate the distal urethra and neutralize acidic urine which remains in the urethra. Okay, let's go to the hormones. We have testosterone. The testosterone is secreted by the testicular interstitial cells or the Leydig cells. It is essential for the development and maintenance of the male sex organs and secondary sex characteristics. The secretion begins in the utero and increases in puberty. It is controlled by the luteinizing hormone and the follicle-stimulating hormone secreted by the anterior pituitary gland. By the way, there is a cooling mechanism of the testes. No, ang testes daw sa males is 2 degrees centigrade lower than the body temperature. So yung pinakabugnaw nga part sa human body sa lalaki, ang yung testes, kay mas bugnaw na diya by 2 degrees as compared to your body temperature. Okay, let us now go to the process of spermatogenesis. How is the sperm produced and developed? So, it starts with the hypothalamus, which secretes the gonadotropin releasing hormone. Okay? The hypothalamus secretes the gonadotropin-releasing hormone, which stimulates, the GnRH stimulates the anterior pituitary gland to produce follicle-stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone. The follicle-stimulating hormone is responsible for the maturation of sperm, while the luteinizing hormone is responsible for testosterone production. Thus, the FSH and the LH will now stimulate the testes to produce testosterone and to cause maturation of the sperm. Okay? So in the testes, the Leydig cell is the one which produces or releases the testosterone, while the 900 coiled seminiferous tubules produce the sperm. So ang Leydig cell sa testes, sa itlog, mo ay ma-release sa testosterone. Ang seminiferous tubule sa itlog or sa testes, mo ay ma-produce sa sperm. While the Sertoli cells of the testes provides nutrient to the testes or to the sperm. Okay? So after the sperm matures, it is now, the site of maturation, by the way, of the sperm is in the epididymis. So it is in the the epididymis is the site of the maturation of sperm, no? It is around 6 centimeters. And then, pag excrete na ng sperm, it passes through the vas deferens, which is the conduit pathway of the sperm, and it passes through the seminal vesicles, which secretes fructose and prostaglandin also, and to the ejaculatory duct, and the prostate gland releases alkaline substance, which gives volume also to the semen, and the Cowper's gland also releases alkaline substances, and then together the sperm and the fluids in the semen will now go into the urethra ready for ejaculation. Okay, katubitong akong i-mention nga mga male and female reproductive organs. Okay, nana sila yung mga male and female homologs. Muna bang pare-parehas siya o function, pare-parehas siya o itsura gamay. Pare-pareha po siya o mga reaction gamay. So for example, the pineal glands in male is homologous to the clitoral glands in the female. Okay, parehas man siya nga kung mag-engorge of blood, it will become erect. And then the penile shaft is homologous to the clitoral shaft. The testis is homologous to the ovaries. Okay, pareha-pareha siya because ang testis will produce man siya og sex hormone nga testosterone, will produce po siya og sperm cells. Ang ovaries will produce po siya og hormones nga estrogen and progesterone, will produce po siya og egg cells. That's why it's homologous, no? The prostate in males is homologous to the Skin's gland in females. The Cowper's glands in males is homologous to the Bartholin's glands in females. And the scrotum in males is homologous to the labia majora of the females. Okay. Now, there are physiologic processes that the female reproductive system undergoes, no? So, we call that as the female reproductive cycle. So, kami rin mo undergo ani ang males dili. So, we call this as the physiologic processes of the female reproductive cycle. Okay, first we have the menstrual cycle, which starts from the beginning of menstruation to the beginning of the next menstruation. Okay, so ang menstrual cycle namo is monthly, no? And it starts from the beginning of menstruation to the beginning of the next menstruation. The average menstrual cycle would last for 28 days. So day 1, mo to nag-menstruate ka, until day 28, mo na-end sa imong one cycle. After day 28, balik na po kas day 1. The cycle repeats itself until you reach menopause. So again, the average menstrual cycle is 28 days. The average menstrual period is 5 days. A normal blood loss during during menstruation is 50 ml, accompanied by fibrinolysis. So these are the terms related to menstruation. We have menarche. The menarche is the first menstruation, and as I mentioned a while ago, this is the hallmark of puberty in females. So menarche is the first menstruation. Dysmenorrhea is painful menstruation. Metrorrhagia is bleeding in between menstruation. Kaya bitaw, idugo ka karon. na kada 5 to 8 of the month imong dugo. And then wala pa 5 to 8 sa next month, gidugo na po ka daghang kaayo, tapos gidugo na po ka next 5 to 8. So katong wala mo tultul, that is what you call as metrorrhagia, bleeding in between menstruation. Ang excessive bleeding during menstruation is what you call as menorrhagia. So menorrhagia is excessive bleeding during menstruation, and then the absence of menstruation is called as amenorrhea, and the cessation of menstruation is called as menopause. Okay. Okay. Now, for the female sexual cycles or menstrual cycle, we have what we call as the ovarian cycle and the uterine cycle. So the ovarian cycle is a term used to describe the series of events associated with a developing oocyte or egg cell within the ovaries. The uterine cycle, on the other hand, involves changes in the uterus and occurs in tandem with the ovarian cycle. So, ovarian cycle, muna siya nahitabo sa ovaries during one menstrual cycle. Ang uterine cycle, muna siya nahitabo sa uterus during one menstrual cycle. So, under the ovarian cycle, we have the follicular phase, the ovulation phase, and the luteal phase. So, unsa man ang follicular phase? Mahitaboan na. It is the time from the first day of menstruation until ovulation, when the mature egg is released from the ovary. So ovulation is when the mature egg is released from the ovary. So that means that it's day 1 to day 13. That is the follicular phase. The ovulation phase occurs around day 14 of the cycle in response to a surge of luteinizing hormone when the egg is released from the ovary. So day 14 is ovulation. And then day 15 to 28, that is the luteal phase. No? It is a time from when the egg is released until the first day of menstruation, until the first day of the next menstruation ba. So it is named after corpus luteum, which is the Latin for yellow body, which is a structure that grows in the ovary where a mature egg was released at ovulation. Ang uterine cycle naman, na proliferative phase, that is the time after menstruation and before the next ovulation, when the lining of the uterus grows and thickens. So that is day 5 to day 14. So the uterine lining increases rapidly in thickness and the uterine glands proliferate and grow. And then the next phase of the uterine cycle, that is the secretory phase, it is the time after ovulation. So when an egg is fertilized, mamuros ang kuan, di ba, ang mama. But when an egg is not fertilized, the corpus luteum gradually disappears, estrogen and progesterone levels drop, and the thickened uterine lining is shed. So that is now what you call as menses. Kanang mo shed ng uterine lining, muna siya ang menses or the monthly period or the menstruation na. So kanang secretory phase mo, occur na siya days 14 through 28. And then pagdugo na, day 1 na pod siya og balik. Okay. So, what happens inside our internal reproductive organs nganong dugon man ta, nganong naman tay menstruation ug naaman tay menstrual cycle. Okay. It all starts from the hypothalamus again. Okay? So the hypothalamus releases the gonadotropic releasing hormone. Naay duha ka gonadotropic releasing hormone sa mga babae nga hypothalamus. The follicle stimulating hormone releasing factor and the luteinizing hormone releasing factor. Di pa na siya mao ang FSH ug LH gid ha? Releasing factors pa lang na siya. So in general, we call that as gonadotropic releasing hormone. Again, the hypothalamus releases the gonadotropic releasing hormone. The gonadotropic releasing hormone stimulates the pituitary gland to secrete the follicle stimulating hormone and the little of the luteinizing hormone into the bloodstream. Because of the release of FSH and LH, the Graafian follicles in the ovary begins to mature. Okay? The maturing Graafian follicles now releases estrogen nga hormone. So, tungod atong pag-stimulate sa GnRH sa imuhang pituitary gland nga mag-release of FSH ug LH, ang Graafian follicle ning mature, si Graafian follicle ning release of estrogen. The estrogen now causes the lining of the uterus to thicken and causes the cervical mucus to change. So there is now increased estrogen level in your blood. No? The increase in estrogen level stimulates the hypothalamus to release gonadotropin-releasing hormone. This time, it's the luteinizing hormone-releasing factor. Okay? Now, because of the release of the gonadotropin-releasing hormone, it now stimulates the pituitary gland to release large amount of luteinizing hormone. The luteinizing hormone triggers the one most mature follicle to burst open and release an egg. So, mo na siya ang ovulation na dayon na nahitabo. Okay? Inside the fallopian tube, the egg is carried along by the cilia towards the uterus. If the sperm is present, there will be fertilization. So during ovulation, pag na-sperm na nakasulod, fertilization will take place. But if the uterus is not pregnant, the follicle will turn into white. No? It's now called as the corpus albicans. Okay, so let's go back. Ato sa kunahon na lang if the sperm is present. So if the sperm is present, so fertilization will take place. The remains of the follicle becomes the corpus luteum or the yellow body, which releases progesterone hormone, which is necessary for the maintenance of pregnancy. But if the pregnancy will not occur, no? So the Graafian follicle will turn into white and become the corpus luteum will turn into white and will become the corpus albicans. The estrogen and progesterone level drops and menstruation will occur. Did you follow? Did you follow the menstrual cycle? Kung sa mga panghitabo, nganong nag-menstruate ta or nganong wala may hitabo sa atong uterus kumaboros ta. So good ha. Okay, ang atong hypothalamus, na nasa atong central nervous system, atong hypothalamus ha, if you could remember, this is the reason class, nga nung unahon yun atong anatomy and physiology, before ta mag-NCM, kay na yung mga recall sa anatomy and physiology, because we wouldn't know what is happening inside our body and what goes wrong inside our body without understanding our human anatomy and physiology. So, like now, I'm mentioning hypothalamus. Can you still remember where hypothalamus is? Could you still remember your pituitary gland is? What your pituitary gland is? So, I hope you could still remember para makasabot mo na itong lecture. Ha? In fact, this is already part of anatomy and physiology kaning menstrual cycle. No? Okay, so nagsugod ang tanan. Bisayon ko na lang para masabtan, ha? Nagsugod ang tanan sa hypothalamus nato. Ang atong hypothalamus ning release o gonadotropin releasing hormone or GnRH. Kani si gonadotropin releasing hormone, hindi naman siya makitaan. Kaya namin sulod sa itong lawas. Hormone na siya. When it is released by an endocrine gland, it is called as a hormone. Okay, classic hormone, no? So the hypothalamus releases the gonadotropin releasing hormone. The gonadotropin-releasing hormone will now stimulate the anterior pituitary gland to release the follicle-stimulating hormone and a little luteinizing hormone. Kaya sa asa man na i-release tuod ng atong mga hormone, sa dugo na to ha, sa blood na siya gi-release. Ang nag-release ana niya mga endocrine glands. O, kani pituitary gland, endocrine gland na siya. So again, the hypothalamus releases the gonadotropin-releasing hormone. The gonadotropin-releasing hormone, kaya na-release naman siya sa dugo, na naman siya sa itong dugo, ma-detect na din na siya sa itong pituitary gland. Mo-stimulate na din siya sa pituitary gland nato nga mo pagawas na po ang atong pituitary gland og follicle stimulating hormone o a little luteinizing hormone into our bloodstream. Tungod kay nanay follicle stimulating hormone o gamay nga luteinizing hormone atong dugo na stimulate na dayon si Graafian follicle nga naasulod sa tong ovary nga mo mature siya. Unsay naa ni Graafian follicle, naa niya atong egg cell, no? So the Graafian o gapon mo na siya mo release pod og kuan kanang mga hormones, mga female hormones. Okay? So tungod kay naay FSH o LH atong bloodstream na stimulate si Graafian follicle nga mo mature na siya. Si mature Graafian follicle mo release na din siya estrogen. Estrogen is another hormone. Okay? Again, asa ipang release ang hormone?
Sa bloodstream.
Miss Alfaro? Asa ipang release na tong hormone? Asa na siya, iniguman niya glugwa, asa na siya makita? Atong mga hormones. Alfaro, are you still there? Tabanaw. Please turn your cameras on.